Morning all, it's Nick here. Menopause Nick, as I've been calling myself. So, what did I want to talk about today? Well, yes, the menopause, but also more specifically, anxiety, cognitive ability, disengagement from life, lack of trust in ourselves, sensitivity to things going on around us, all of the above. So, I am still managing without HRT, and it's been a few months rather than weeks now, and actually it's getting pretty bad. I am seeing, sorry, the lights, I can see that the light from my lamp is reflecting on my glasses, but not to worry. I am seeing my consultant in a couple of weeks, and I think I'm going to be discussing how we can find a form of HRT that I can go back on without side effects, because I think if I look over the past few months, there's been a steady decline. And because it's been a steady decline and I didn't just fall off a cliff, I think I thought I could cope with it. But if you were to speak to me this week, I would say that I'm not coping very well with it. And what does that mean in reality? Well, I'm sleeping and I'm not sleeping. So I am desperate to go to sleep at night and I'm really tired. And then I wake at about 3 in the morning and I am anxious all the time. So yeah, the anxiety is pretty much just a constant rumble, and the rumble over time is getting louder. So previously, when I vlogged, I talk about this background anxiety, and over the last couple of weeks, that background anxiety has started becoming not background at all, but really in my face, and it's attaching itself to specific instances and circumstances. And I find myself waking at 3 in the morning, the dark night of the soul, things whirring through my head, a whole variety of things. And then maybe about 5:30, I might drop off for another hour, but I'm just not getting proper sleep. And then that leads to something else, which is a general disengagement, so I real can't be arsed. So I'm down to the bare bones each day. It's literally the bare bones of what I need to do. This week has resulted in me actually lying. I've actually been lying to a really good friend who's actually one of the friends I actually feel very psychologically safe with. There's no reason for me to lie to her. It's not about her, it's about me. I usually go out early in the morning walking, and I've said I don't feel physically very well, which is a lie, because for some reason I don't actually feel able to tell the truth, which is I don't feel mentally very well, and I just can't be bothered. And the thought of actually getting up and going out, getting myself organised enough to go out. Sorry, I've got something in my eye that's really bugging me. The thought of doing that, the thought of the physical energy that I need to do that, perhaps the thought of even, either way, either using energy to be happy and engage, or using energy to try and express how I'm feeling, it's just too much. So I've said that I'm physically ill, because that is an easier thing for me to say than the truth. So that, I think that's important to acknowledge. The other thing that I found is there's been some stuff that I've been working on, and the anxiety it has caused me is off the scale. And I spent many, many, many years as a management consultant, and one of the really big strengths I had, and I loved it, I absolutely loved it with a passion. And the reason actually I was really successful in what I did was I had a great ability to walk into very, very complex situations, and really cut through everything and simplify it and get to what really mattered, and therefore solve the problem. And yet one of the things I observed, my husband was helping me last night to resolve, to go through some paperwork and just understand some stuff that I'm working on. And I was so anxious, but what what I said when we finished the piece of work we were doing, and what I observed is my cognitive ability is reduced. So I just didn't have the intellectual cognitive ability to be able to work out what I needed to do. And it wasn't that complex. And it really was like a slap in the face. And I think there's something in the fact that my anxiety is so palpable, is so much in the driving seat, that I'm losing the ability to just order and be logical about things. So it's a self-fulfilling, it's this, rolling boulder. So the less cognitive and rational I can apply to situations, the higher the anxiety, and it's just it's a feeding frenzy. Really noticed that last night. And I've lost my train of thought. That is the thing that's really bad at the minute. Just the brain fog. I'm having a conversation. I had a conversation with my husband last night about dinner tonight, and literally half an hour later, I'm saying to him, "What are we having for dinner tomorrow night?" It feels like you're talking to somebody with dementia. And then, so you would say, "Well, why am I doing this? Why am I sharing all of this?" And actually, do you know what's really important about doing these vlogs? The most important thing is that it can help in some way. And that's as much for myself as others. And I know I've said this many times, but I wanted to think about why that is this morning. So there's something about when I verbalise this, when I verbalise it, and of course this is a really non-judgmental space to verbalise it in, because, there's nobody that's going to come back and try and fix me or give me a solution, or God forbid, tell me to do something, which means I've got to get off my arse and do it, because I'm just not in that space. And I think, people as well-meaning as they are, and coming from a place of love, can suggest things and want to help. And actually, it's very difficult to actually explain to somebody all of the different variables and feelings going around in your head. And then if they say something, you then go, yeah, but. And then, I just feel like a negative narcissistic Nancy. So, sorry, I don't know why I use the word Nancy. Nancy is a perfectly beautiful name, so I don't want to use it in that vein. Apologies to anybody called Nancy. So, but it is important to verbalise it for me. And that's because the words coming out of my mouth and just talking about this, it's helping my brain process what's going on. And somehow it gives it it helps me to give it some perspective. And I think this is the same principle as actually journaling in the morning, where people say journaling is so healthy. Because I think getting it out of our heads, whether it's into words, whether we have a conversation with ourselves, whether we write it down on a piece of paper, whether we've got somebody we can have a conversation with, who knows? It's not, I don't need anything back, I have to say, although it is really, really heartwarming if me sharing this helps others. I think what it is giving me some perspective and allowing stuff to get out of my head, because otherwise our heads get too full. And that's the other thing, you just feel so full that the minute a tiny thing goes wrong, a tiny thing, it's like I just don't have the capacity. I just don't have the capacity. And it's this real fight or flight, and everything, of course, is interacting with each other. Because I can't remember if I said in one of the vlogs, but I went to see a hearing specialist because the sensory overload is just so bad and it causes so much anxiety. And basically, this guy was amazing, but what he said is it's not your hearing's fine. Your nervous system is stuck in fight or flight. Your nervous system is so sensitized that you're just picking up on every single sound, and it's just amplified. And actually, what I need to be really working on is mindfulness and actually getting my nervous system down. And I don't think it's any surprise, actually, that my very wonderful yoga teacher has moved away, and I am in between finding yoga teachers. I haven't really found the right connection for me yet. Putting it out there to the universe, I am looking for a yoga teacher I can really connect with, because my old yoga teacher, it wasn't just about the physical yoga. She did a lot of breathing techniques with me. And I only went to her once a week for an hour and a half. And I have to say that both physically in terms of my aches and pains, and also mentally, and I think it was definitely a lot of the work I did with her really helped my nervous system come down a notch. So it feels like my nervous system is just on high alert all of the time. So I'm hugely sensitive. That then drives a level of anxiety, which is this feeding frenzy, because it doesn't matter how small something is, I'm anxious about it. then that is dampening my cognitive ability, my rational ability to actually look at things and just deal with them, resolve them and move on. So this whole thing, you can see these so many different variables that are attached. And I've said this before, I don't know. Actually, my hypothesis is this isn't just biological. So I think it's one of those perfect storms that comes together. So I think there is definitely a massive biological element. And I think I'm really starting to feel, I'm really starting to struggle. And my hormones are probably all over the place. I'm going to get my bloods done next week. It'll be really interesting to see those results. And I think I probably need to find a way to be able to find some type of HRT that I don't have side effects to. I've just been on HRT so long, my body's started rejecting it basically, which is what the side effects are about. So I think that's definitely kind of one work stream I need to look at. I think there's definitely something else around the more holistic approach to managing our energy levels and our balance and our chakras. And I think the loss of doing what I would call the very authentic, more old-fashioned type of yoga has really had an impact on me both physically and mentally. And I need to try and resolve that. I think there is also a level of stress, anxiety, and manicness in life, in modern day life, which is actually just really unhealthy for us. And I think because of, technology and all the rest of it, we're constantly consumed. You don't just wait for the paper to rock up once a day to find out what's happening, or the 6 o'clock news anymore. It's 24/7. Now, I am actually pretty strict at not being too engaged with the news, and I don't spend all day scrolling on social media. Although I do know that on the bad days when I'm feeling really down, I can find myself falling into that trap because it's my brain wanting to distract myself from the feelings of discomfort and the feelings of shit. And it's just toxic. It just makes me feel worse. But generally, on the whole, but I think that there's a certain level of it that you just can't get away from. It's just around you. And I just noticed, just in terms of the amount we have to do. I don't work full time. So, I have plenty of gaps in my diary to keep on top of everything. But just the amount of stuff that surrounds us in this life is huge. Even things as silly as, like, it sounds so lovely, doesn't it, having the freedom to be able to travel and go on holidays like we do. And there's just so much benefit from it. It's untrue. But actually, there's a stressful side to it as well. There's a stressful side of getting everybody ready, getting the packing done. You're all rammed into, I was thinking that when we got the plane on holiday a few weeks ago, you're rammed into this plane in a small space. It's really loud. There's loads of stuff going on. You're in airports, there's queues. You're getting on the bus to take you to your accommodation. You're waiting in a queue, and there's lots of actually really stressful things that go with it. It's not quite like getting in a car and driving around the west coast of Scotland where you don't see a soul. And so with a lot of the freedoms we have in life, there's also a lot of responsibility and stress that come with that. So, there's yin and yang, right? This is a very broad thing, isn't it? You can see that I am searching and I am trying to explore and understand so that I can better manage myself, because I really do believe, life can happen for us or life can happen to us. And it's really hard, I found, in the menopause. I want to stay grounded in the belief that life happens for me, not to me. I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to fall into a trap of thinking poor me and being a victim and allowing this menopause and the circumstances to dictate everything. But at the same time, I want to be kind to myself, and I want to find a way to be able to navigate my way through it. So I really want to use this as a way to grow and to learn about myself, and to embrace always a healthier, more simplistic, more sustainable life. And it's a really fine balance, isn't it? But I don't think that means, so I think part of self-care for me, and part of wanting to do that, is giving myself the permission to have these honest conversations with myself, which is what I'm having now, about how I'm feeling. And in the process of doing this, I'm thinking, what's going on here? What is my body and my mind and my soul trying to tell me? And what can I do with that? What can I learn from that, and how can I move forward from it? I'm not quite sure of the answers at the minute. I know one step is to see my consultant and to see what I can do biologically to support myself, either with natural and or the HRT, because I think I'm really, really starting to struggle without it, and it is affecting my neurons, my mind, my cognitive ability, my mental state, my physical energy levels. It's affecting all of that. And actually, I'm really hungry all the time, particularly for carbohydrates. So I think my insulin is also getting out of balance. So that's definitely one route. I think another route is, I think maybe just having some stillness, and maybe the kindness is saying you don't have to go for a walk, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that, but maybe having some stillness, not to kind of wallow in my self-pity, but to understand what I'm feeling and why. Because maybe all of, the emotional discomfort that's coming up without the HRT is maybe there's some stuff there that actually needs to be resolved. And actually I did start with a really good therapist last week, because I think with the combination of the work I do as a soul midwife, so I help people at end of life emotionally, that can take its toll. And I need to constantly nourish myself, because that work's really important to me, and having that purpose and being able to have that positive impact on people when they're at the most vulnerable is like the air I breathe. It's really important. So I need to manage myself, my energy levels, to ensure that I can do that work long term. But I also think that there's some stuff in there which is personal and triggering, and maybe stuff, traumas, experiences, things we've all, we all have wounds, we all have hurt that needs dealing with. And I guess also it's a bit of an experiment to see if there's stuff that's coming, that somebody talking to somebody can help me kind of get to the bottom of the more intangible subconscious stuff that might be driving some of my anxiety. That's important. And I know that the other, what's the next best step? That's the thing. The third thing is, I think it's important for me to find a yoga practice. And actually, maybe it's time, after spending several years with some great teachers, maybe it's time just to be a bit more disciplined and do stuff on my own at home, and have a little bit more faith in myself that I can do that. So they're the next best steps, I think. Very small baby steps for me at the minute. And for anybody else who's feeling like this, I genuinely hope this is of help. And maybe what we say to ourselves is like the Buddha says to the anxiety: come on in, have a cup of tea. What is it that you need me to understand? And maybe we can try and create the space to actually really listen to ourselves and get to know ourselves a bit better, and just work out those very small next best steps. So lots of love. Take care of yourself. I know this will pass. I know I can take a step forward. Sometimes those steps are smaller some days than others, and that's okay. Take care. Bye.